Yeah, welcome to the lecture video on module 5 of ARM microcontroller and embedded system. The subject code is 10EC or 17EC62. So for both the schemes, same syllabus is there, 2015 as well as 2017. So this module, we shall see the syllabus. So it will talk about operating system basics, types of operating system, tasks, process, and threads, thread preemption, preemptive scheduling, task communication, synchronization, issues like racing and deadlock, concept of binary and counting semaphores, how to choose an RTOS, and a bit about integrated development environment, that is IDE. Right? So again, the textbook is same whatever you referred for module 3, that is Shibu KV, Introduction to Embedded Systems, Tata McGraw-Hill edition, second edition. Yeah, so the first topic here is operating system basics. So before going to this basics, we shall study about some basics about why an operating system is required, okay, and when it is required, and what is an operating system, how it will help the system to improve, right? Yeah, so I'll give an example. So I'll again take the example of a toy car, so which has only four commands: either go front or go forward, come backward, go right or go left. So these are the four commands. So here, whatever the code you whatever the code you write, so that will be very simple code. It has to detect the key pressed and act accordingly. If the forward key is pressed, so it has to go forward. If backward key is pressed, it has to come backwards. If right key is pressed, go right, and if left key is pressed, go left. So the code is very simple. Okay, so first you have to detect the key press and then act accordingly. So here only one task is there. So what is the task, or what is the function? Detect the key press. So once you detect the key press, then you can do the rest. So the code is very simple. In such applications, there is no need of operating system. Why? Because the application is very simple, or you can say there are no multiple tasks that needs to be performed. Only one task is there: detect the key press. Getting what I'm saying? So example of this, real-time example of this is, let's say there is a shop which will do the mobile, which will do, let's say, the network recharges. So that is uh, recharging the currency of a particular operator. It can be any operator. So that shop will do only recharging of the currency. So for that simple shop, you don't require a manager. Okay, you don't require a manager. One guy is sufficient, who might be the owner itself, who the owner himself is sufficient, because there are no things to manage there, because only one task is the recharging a particular operator. That's all. Okay, so depending on which operator you have to recharge some currency. That's all. So there is only one task, recharging, and no need of operating system. Okay, getting what I'm saying? So now I'll come to a more complex, let's say, a business. Right? So let's say it's a big bazaar. The business is big bazaar, wherein there are multiple tasks. So it is not only recharging there, but see, in a big bazaar, you can buy clothes, right? You can buy utensils, you can buy groceries. Okay, so you can buy sports items. So you can buy stationaries. So various things. So there are various things. So you can even buy fruits, vegetables, right? So all these things, so they are nothing but tasks. So what is the task here? So you have to procure all these things, purchase these things, and you have to segregate them, and you have to separate them, and you have to organize them properly. So the customer can easily find the things, and he can easily choose whatever he wants. Correct? So in such a business, so the number of tasks are more. Okay, so as I told, You have to procure various items and you have to segregate them, separate them, and organize them. So in such a case, we require a manager. Okay, so we require a manager. So what is the job of the manager here? So he will overlook the operation. So he will overlook the stocks that will come in, so how they are segregated, where they are stored, how they are stored, and how they are made available to the customer. Okay, so how the billing happens. So everything the manager has to supervise. So he will supervise. He will overlook the operation. Getting what I'm saying? So in such applications where the number of tasks or processes are more, okay, where more than one task is there that needs to be handled simultaneously, you require a manager who will overlook or who will supervise the operation. So same concept will apply here. So when an operating system is required, so whenever there is a concept of multitasking, okay, so multitasking is there. So that is at a, at any given point of time, more than one task is present in the memory of a system. It can be a general purpose system or an embedded system. Whenever more than one task is there in a given system at a given point of time in the memory, so that is known as multitasking. So you should be able to manage both the tasks without interfering with each other. The tasks shouldn't be interfering with each other, and both should complete their job. Okay, so in such a case, we require an operating system to supervise this operation. Okay, to supervise the operation. So operating system, what it will do is it will supervise or overlook the system operation, system tasks. That is why you require a operating system. So now we shall see a basic definition for operating system. Okay. So again, there are various definitions. This is one of the definitions. So the operating system is a software. So again, it's nothing but a software. It acts as a bridge between the user application or tasks and the underlying system resources. Okay. So what is this? It will act as a bridge or an interface. You can say it is an interface between the user applications. You can see the diagram here. I have put up a diagram. User applications and the system hardware through an interface. So this interface will have a set of system functionalities and services. It will have some functionalities. So each operating system should be able to do some operations or functionalities. So that is why it is installed. So it has to overlook, right? So to overlook the operations, to supervise the operations, or to do multitasking, it has to perform some functionalities or services, correct? So that is what operating system will have. So we shall later discuss about what are the system functionalities and services that it will offer. So now see this diagram here. So you are having user applications or programs, and this is the hardware. Okay, so there is no operating system involved here. So this is an example of a toy car. Okay, or a simple business whereas only one task is there. So no need of OS. Okay, so now you can see what is the hardware. What is the hardware? So hardware can be, so I'll show you what is the hardware. So hardware, whenever you say the hardware or system resources, so it can be the primary memory, which is the RAM. It can be the secondary memory, which is the storage memory, or a ROM. Okay, so it can be the CPU. So CPU is nothing but the processor in the hardware. So peripheral devices like keyboard, mouse, printer, scanners. Okay, so I/O devices. So various I/O devices can be connected to the system like camera, so microphone, keyboard, mouse, monitor, speakers, so all these. So whenever I say hardware or a system resource, it is nothing but all the all the physical things you can see in a embedded system or a general purpose system. So as soon as you see your PC or a laptop, so whatever you can directly look at, so all that will come under the hardware, okay, or system resources. So these are the system resources or the hardware I'm talking about. So whenever I say hardware, those are the resources. So next is user applications or programs. So what are user applications or programs? See, example is, so whatever the Word document I'm using. So to open this Word document, I'm using Microsoft Word, right? So this is a user application or a program that you are using in a system. So in my laptop, I'm using this, correct? Similarly, another user application may be a PDF editor. So another application may be a, let's say, an MP3 player, MP3 song player, so which can play MP3 songs. So another application may be a player which will play the videos. So all these are user applications or programs. So they will interact with the hardware directly whenever there is no OS, and this will happen for simple systems. Okay, very simple systems which don't need OS. So wherein the number of tasks are less. Okay, or even there is no multitasking at all. So in such systems, OS is not required. So now we'll come to the systems where OS is required actually. Okay, so now so you can see the difference between this and this diagram is nothing but an operating system is there between the user program or application and the hardware. So it will, as I told, provide an interface or it will act as a bridge. Okay, so why it will act as a bridge? Because the user applications cannot access the hardware directly. In this case, they have to go through the operating system, which will overlook the operation. So let's say the user application that you are running, it requires access to the camera. Okay, it requires access to the camera. So it cannot directly access the hardware. It has to go through the OS. It will tell the OS that I need the camera. And now the OS, what it will do is, it will see that the camera is first free. Okay. So if the camera is free, then it will assign that camera to whatever the application which demands for the camera. If the camera is not free at that particular time, so this OS will tell the user application that that camera is being utilized by someone else. So you have to wait. See, because here multitasking is there, that is more than one task are running simultaneously are present in the memory. So the camera may be under use by some other application. Okay, so whenever that application let goes the camera, then only the next application or the program can use the camera. So that thing the operating system will take care. So that is what is a OS. So as I told, this is a basic definition. So now next we will move on to program. So what is a program? So a program is a set of instructions and associated data that resides on the disk. So as soon as it is disk, it means secondary memory. Okay. So a program is set of instructions and associated data which is present in the secondary memory and is loaded by the operating system to perform some task. Okay. So example. So as soon as you, let's say, as soon as I double click on the skill microvision 4, okay, so now the program for this is present in the hard disk. So as soon as I double click, so it will load that program onto the primary memory. So the primary memory is the RAM. So now whatever the application you see here, this application is now in the RAM. Okay, so not all the application will be in the RAM, only the required part which is present in the hard disk, which is necessary to run this application, will be moved on to the primary memory, which is the RAM. Okay, so this is what is a program and how it will operate. Okay, so as soon as you open it, some part is loaded to the operating system or by the operating system to perform the task. Okay, so next, so what are the examples? So an executable file. Okay, so executable file means .exe file. So whichever the file you run. So as I told, just I run the Keel microvision. It's a executable file or a Python script are examples for programs. Okay, so an application consists of, see, an application or program consists of one or more processes. So this definition was sourced by www.educative.io. So this is where I got the definition. So an application or a program, whenever you open it, it can have one or more processes. Okay, it can have one or more processes. Fine. Next, what is a process? What is a process? A process is, in simplest terms, is a program in execution. That's all. So a program is nothing but set of instructions which is there in the hard disk or the secondary memory. So as soon as you double click it, so it will start to run. So a program under execution, under running, is known as a process. Okay. So a program can have multiple processes. So multiple processes are allowed for a program. Okay. So a program under execution is process. So next, what is thread? The thread is smallest unit of execution in a process. Okay. So in process again, so it is divided into threads. So it is nothing but smaller unit of execution. So it is just like here, program is nothing but a human being. Okay. A process is nothing but an organ in a human being, and a thread is nothing but a cell. So what is a cell? It is a basic unit of life. Okay, basic unit of life. So in a program you can have multiple processes. That is, in a human being you can have multiple organs, and in the organs what you can have? Cells. So cell is nothing but a thread. So thread is the basic unit of execution. Simple example. So a thread simply executes instructions serially. So whatever the instructions that are there in the program, so it will execute the instructions serially. So there can be hundreds of instructions. So out of hundreds of instructions, it can execute any few of the instructions, and that too serially. So one or more threads run in the context of process. So a process can have multiple threads. See the organization. So program can have multiple processes, and a process can have multiple threads. A thread is a basic unit to which operating system allocates processor time. So actually whenever you say that a processor is giving time to some instructions, so it is nothing but thread. So we do the operations at thread level, not at process level, not at program level. We do the operations at thread level. We deal with threads. Okay. Yeah. So again, this definition is taken by the same from the same source, executive.io. Next, you can see the diagram here. So program. So where is the program? It is in the ROM. So ROM is the secondary memory of the hard disk or the just a disk. So whenever you start to execute this program, it will be moved to the RAM, which is the primary memory. Okay, so and see, you can see here the program can have multiple processes. So here in this case it has two processes, and where the processes exist, they exist in the primary memory, and each process can have multiple threads. So see, you can see here process, if you call this as process 1, it is having two threads. And where are these threads running? In the primary memory only. They will run in the primary memory only. So this image I took it from rtos.be. So this is the source of this image. Okay. Yes, and then what are the system resources? So as soon as I say hardware or system resources, these are the resources: memory, CPU, peripherals, I/O device, and associated hardware like camera, microphone, keyboard, speaker, monitor, everything. So now I'll show some of the processes that are uh, currently running in my PC. So what you have to do, press Ctrl Alt Delete. Then you have to go to Task Manager. See, as soon as you go to Task Manager, you can see here processes. So currently, how many processes are running in my PC? So this is one process. Okay, so this is the process, and how much CPU it is utilizing currently, how much memory it is utilizing, how much disk means secondary memory it is utilizing, how much graphical processing unit it is utilizing. So power usage it is high. So next is one more process, Foxit Reader. One more process. What is this? Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, Windows Explorer. So all these are the processes that are currently running. So these are the applications that I am currently have opened. But here there are other applications which are background processes. These run in the background. So these support the operating system to run. Okay, so these applications I have not opened them, but they will automatically run whenever you start the system, because the operating system needs these processes to function. So if these work properly, the operating system will work properly. So totally you can see how many processes are there. So even though I am running only 6 applications, these are the background applications that are running. Okay, and these are nothing but processes. Hope you are getting. So each process will have multiple threads. Okay, so this is the CPU utilization, so graphs, so memory utilization, so disk utilization, Wi-Fi utilization, okay, GPU utilization. Okay, so this is app history, startup user details. Okay, you can see how much memory it is being utilized. So this is what is PID. PID means process ID. So each process will be given an ID. Okay, so it is just like a name to each process. Okay, so this is process ID. Okay, so then these are the services. So some are running, some are stopped. Fine. So you can also open resource monitor. Yeah, so now in resource monitor you can clearly see how many threads are there for each process. So see here, the process is debut.exe, that is the recording software I'm using. So this the process ID for this is 12,384. It is the each process will get its unique ID. It is just like a name as I told. Here how many threads are there? 16. Okay, so in this process there are 16 threads. Okay, as I told, each process can have multiple threads. Okay. So next, Explorer. Explorer means the Windows Explorer I opened here. See, this is the Explorer. So it is having here how many threads? 72, and it keeps on varying. Okay, so hope you got the idea of what is a process, what is a thread, and how the process and threads are organized. See, you can see how many threads are there for each process. These are the processes. Okay, and there will be background processes that will be running even though you don't open them, because these are required background processes for proper functioning of operating system. Okay, so with this basics we shall move on to the actual syllabus. See, these basics are important because we use these in day-to-day life, and you should be able to tell what is the difference, right? Yeah, so now we'll come to this operating system basics. See, the operating system acts as a bridge, so same definition, between the user application or the task and underlying system resources. As soon as system resources, we should be able to visualize what are the resources. The CPU, the primary memory, secondary memory, IO devices, peripherals, all will come under system resources. So how this OS will act as a bridge? It will manage the system resources and makes them available to the user applications on need basis. So first thing is it will manage the system resource, that is manage in the sense as I told, it will overlook or supervise similar to a manager. It will segregate the resources, it will organize them in let's say in form of list, and it will keep track which resource is free, which resource is occupied, and whether the resource is available at the current time, and if it is available it will allocate to a application which needs it. Yes, the primary function of the OS is first thing is it will make the system convenient to use. So the system should be convenient to use. Okay. Second one is it will organize and manage the system resources efficiently and correctly. So organize and manage means, as I told, make a list of all the resources. What is the address of each resource? Whether it is currently available, whether it is currently occupied. Okay, that is what. So that is what is the organize and manage. So this is the simple diagram. So this is the user application and this is the underlying hardware. Okay. So again, underlying hardware means CPU, the memory, the peripherals, the I/O device. Okay? And in between these two, you can see kernel services. What is this? Nothing but OS services. Okay. So what are the various OS services? Memory management, process management, time management, file system management, I/O management. So all these come under operating system. So these are the operating system services which will be running as soon as you start your system. So you need not open these; they will directly start to run because OS will make them to start. So now we shall see what is a kernel. So you can see kernel services. What is a kernel? Kernel is nothing but it's a core of the operating system. Okay. So whatever the operating system you run, so not all the code of the operating system becomes the core. So only the essential part of the operating system becomes the core. So that is what is the core. Only the essential part. Okay. You can say it is the brain. It is the brain of the operating system. That is what is kernel. Okay. So what is it is responsible for managing system resources and communication among the hardware and other systems. So same thing. Whatever the definition for OS will hold good for kernel also, but it is the core. So kernel acts as an abstraction layer between the system resources and user applications. Again, the bridge between user applications and underlying hardware. So what is this kernel? It will contain some set of libraries and services. So which are the services? First service is process management. Okay, so first we shall discuss about process management. This is the first service provided by the kernel. So what process management will do? So it deals with managing system processes or tasks. So as I told, we will do the operation in terms of tasks. Okay, not in terms of programs, but in terms of tasks. So processes and tasks are used interchangeably, the names, but we are dealing with tasks. So what it will do? Process management. So this is the service of kernel, right? So it will the management includes so first thing is it will set up the memory required for loading a process or a task. So because each task requires the memory. So that we saw here, right, in the diagram. So each process requires RAM. So the available RAM is very limited. So each process has to be allocated with a RAM. So that will be taken care by process management. So it will set up the memory. Along with that, it will load the process code to the process processes code into the memory space, okay, that is into the RAM. Then allocating system resources. Okay, so let's say that process requires let's say secondary memory access. So it will give the it will allocate it the secondary memory. Then scheduling and managing execution of the process. So what do you mean by scheduling? As I told, at any given point of time, I just showed or there are various applications or processes running. So all these processes have to share the same CPU because CPU is only one. So it is not available to all at a time. So it has to be shared. So how it will be shared, that is depending on the scheduling algorithm. Okay, we shall discuss them later. But remember, CPU and the hardware should be shared with all the resources. So that is taken care by process management, sharing the resources. Then setting up and managing PCB. So what is this PCB? Process control block, or it is also known as task control block. What it will have? It will have the information about the process. So what is the first information it will have is process ID. So I just showed you the process ID. So each process will be given a number so that it can identify the process, the name of the process. Okay, so that information is available in the PCB. So along with the process ID, it will have uh, information about the resources the process is utilizing. Okay, so like memory, so which memory it is utilizing, how much memory it is utilizing, which is the peripheral it is utilizing, currently utilizing, like that. It will also, the process management also deals with inter-process communication. Okay, so what do you mean by inter-process communication? So let's say there are two processes, they have to communicate with each other for some reason. So this has to send some data to this process, and this process has to send some data to this process. So that, how will you manage that? Using the process management. So inter-process communication and then synchronization. Then after that, after the task is completed, you have to terminate the process. All these are taken care by process management. Okay. So next service that kernel provides is primary memory management. So as I told, primary memory means, remember, it is always the working memory or the RAM. Okay. So term RAM refers to volatile memory RAM. So RAM, we know that they are volatile. So where processes are loaded and variables and shared data associated with each processor stored. So as soon as you start a program or a application, it will be moved to the primary memory. And so as and when the process executes, it will generate some variables and some data. So all these are stored in the primary memory only. So this primary memory will also have a memory management unit which is responsible for keeping track of which memory area is currently used by which process. So let's say there is 1 GB of memory. So out of 1 GB, which part of that 1 GB of memory is utilized by process 1, which part is utilized by process 2, and which part is utilized by process 10. So all these will be kept in track by primary memory management service of the kernel. And also it is also responsible for allocating and deallocating memory on need basis. So need basis means it is dynamic memory allocation. So you might have already studied about static allocation and dynamic allocation of memories, wherein, so in static allocation what will happen is whenever you start an application, so that application will be allocated some memory, and once it is allocated to that memory, it cannot demand for extra memory. Okay, so more memory cannot be given to that. So that is what is static, and that allocation is done before that program starts executing. Okay, but in dynamic memory, what will happen is whenever you start a process or whenever you start an application, that in turn will start a process. So whenever that process demands memory, the memory will be allocated to it on need basis. So that is what is dynamic. So during the execution, memory allocation is done. So that is what is known as dynamic. Next, file system management. So this is the third service given by the kernel or provided by the kernel. So what file system will do is, what is a file? It is collection of a related information. So example, a text file. So wherein you'll have the text data in that. So that is what is a file. So a file could be a program, okay, which is nothing but the source code or executable. So it can be a .exe file. File can be a .exe file, or it can be a text file, or it can be image file. It can be a Word document. It can be audio video files. So all these are nothing but various files of various types of files. Okay. So each of these files differ in the kind of information they store, obviously, because an audio file will be different from a video file, and a text file will be different from a Word file, and in which way the data is stored. So each type of file will store the data in separate form. Okay, an Excel file will store data in a different form than a Word file. Both are not compatible, right? You cannot open a Excel file in Word software. Okay, you need a Excel software for that. So file operation is useful service provided by OS. So what it is responsible for? Creation, deletion, and alteration of files. So that is what the file system will do. It will help you to create or delete or alter files. It will also help you to create, delete, and alter directories. So hope you know what is a directory, right? Suppose I go to D drive. So this is the drive. So in that there is a directory 2019 20. So this is one directory. So if I go inside the directory, there are again 6 or 7 more directories. So if I go inside first year, so again, so these are files. These are files and these are directories. So this will be helped by file system. Then saving of files in secondary storage, that is hard disk. So whenever you want to save them, that is where file system management will come in handy. It's a service by the kernel. Then providing automatic allocation of file space based on amount of free space available. Then flexible naming convention. So naming the files, you can rename the files, okay, in a convenient way so that you can organize them properly. So next, kernel services, IO system management. So all these kernel services I'm talking about, they are provided by a GPOS. Remember this, they are provided by a general purpose operating system. These are the services provided by the kernel of the general purpose operating system. So what is this IO system management? It will help you to route the IO request coming from user application to appropriate IO device. Example. So if you take this example, I'll give an example. Some application requires the access to the camera. So that request has to go through the operating system, and that request will be handled by which service? By the IO system management. So it will do, it will what it will do, it will route the request to the appropriate IO device. So in this case, the IO device is, which is the IO device camera. Okay, some application requests camera, it will grant access to camera. So in well-structured OS, the directing access the IO device are not allowed. So the user application never or cannot access the IO devices directly. So they can access them through APIs. What is APIs? Application Programming Interfaces. So there are APIs. So these are system calls that needs to be used to access hardware. Okay. So kernel maintains a list of all the IO devices in the system. So as I told, so since it is an operating system, it has to maintain the list of all the devices that are connected to the system. So this list may be available in advance. So before the system starts, it will build the list. As soon as you boot up, it will detect all the devices available and it will make list of it. Okay, or it can be dynamic also. So that is as and when you add a new device, it will be detected. Okay, so this will be taken care by the device manager service, which is present in the IO system management. So you might have already seen the device manager. So I'll show you. So if you right click on this PC, okay, and you go to properties and you go to device manager. So what this device manager will have, it will have all the list of devices that are connected to my PC. You can see these are the various devices that are connected to my PC currently. Okay, so USB, so keyboard, okay, monitor, computer, then processor. So this is the device manager. Okay, yeah. So this is what. So this device manager will sit in IO system management. So this IO system management. So what is the service of or use of device manager or the responsibility of device manager? It will load and unload device drivers. So as soon as you plug in a new device, you might have seen that you will get a notification here that the device drivers are being loaded for that device. Okay, so that is the job of device manager. And then exchanging information and specific control signals to and from the device. So it will help to communicate between the user application and the device. So next is secondary storage management. Secondary storage means the uh, storage memory or the you can say hard disk, which deals with management of secondary memory device, if any connected. So if you have connected, let's say a, uh, a memory chip or memory card, so that will also act as a secondary storage memory. So it is secondary storage is used as backup medium of for programs and data. Okay, so since main memory or the primary memory is volatile, so that is what secondary memory is used. Secondary memory management deals with disk storage allocation, disk scheduling, and free disk management. So it has to keep track if there is 1 TB of memory. So out of 1 TB, how much is allocated and how much is free, and if the some memory is free and which part of the disk is the free memory available, the address of the memory locations, everything it will store. So next, kernel services protection system. So remember, all these are the kernel services of provided by a GPOS, okay, general purpose operating system. So protection service is very important because the operating systems are devised to have multiple users. Okay, so you might have seen there are you might have created two accounts in your PCs. One is administrator, one more is user. Okay, you might have also seen in the college there is a user account, there is EC Lab, and there is one more account which is administrator. So what it will do is, by creating multiple accounts, you can have protection in the system. So what it will do, protection deals with implementing security policies to restrict access both user and system resources by different applications. So you might have seen, if you log in as a user, you cannot install any new software, or you cannot uninstall a software. So there, that is what is restricting the access. Okay, you can only use the system, but you cannot modify the system. Okay, so one user may not be allowed to view or modify the portion of another user's data. So that is what we mean by protection whenever there are multiple accounts, right? So next is the last service, interrupt handling. That is the last service provided by the kernel. Kernel provides handler mechanism for external and internal interrupts generated by the system. So how to handle the generated interrupts? That is was the last service. So next we will move on to kernel space and user space. What do you mean by kernel space and user space? So as soon as it is space, remember he is talking about the primary memory space. So in primary memory, suppose there is 1 GB of RAM. In that 1 GB of RAM, the RAM will be divided into two spaces or two partitions. So the first partition is kernel space, and the second partition is user space. So the RAM itself is divided into two partitions. So the application services are classified into two categories: the user applications and kernel applications. So if you run an application, let's say as I told, I just double clicked on the key, so it started to execute. That is a user application. The user is running the application. He is initiating the application. But there are other services also which are called kernel applications. So I showed you in the task manager that there are background applications which are running, which are required for the operating system. So those are the kernel applications. So the program code corresponding to kernel application services is kept in a contiguous or OS dependent primary memory, and this memory is unauthorized access by user applications. So this memory is known as kernel space. So as I told, in the primary memory, so let's say this is the primary memory, or let's say this is the RAM, and so in this RAM, so it is divided into two parts. So like this, so the division is logical, not physical. So here it is the kernel space, and this is user space. So this kernel space, so what it will have, it will contain all the applications of the kernel. So what are the applications of the kernel or services? So interrupt handler, protection system, secondary storage management, IO system management, file management, everything, primary memory, process management. So all these will be running where in the kernel space. So this is the part of the primary memory where the operating system files will be running. So that is what is known as kernel space, and this space is not allocated access by the user applications. The user applications cannot access this space. Okay, that is what is the meaning of this. So next is, so similarly user applications are loaded to specific area, and this area is known as user space. So this part is the user space wherein user applications are loaded and they will run. Okay, so there is the partition is purely OS dependent, and it is logical, not physical. Okay, so logical, that is an understanding, that's all. So in an operating system with virtual memory support, so there is a concept of demand paging. So what do you mean by virtual memories? So virtual means false. So let's say there is 1 GB of the actual memory, but the system might support additional 1 GB of primary memory which is virtual. So it is not existing, but it will make it to exist. That's all. So this 1 GB, extra 1 GB, it is not actually present, but it is assumed to be present, and this 1 GB is actually used in the secondary memory. So this some part of the secondary memory will be used for virtual memory. Okay, so that is what is the concept of virtual memory. Yeah, so we'll discuss about the types of kernels in the next lecture. Right? So hope this was useful. Thank you.